finally found a number. I watch his pod. Obviously, everyone knows I'm a huge Sopranos guy. My man, Rob Iler, joining me. What's happening?
Thanks for having me, man. Not much, just hanging, out here in Texas, which is something I never thought I'd say, but I'm in Texas. I love it. Hanging, things are good.
Austin's nice, man. It really is. People that haven't been there, I've been a couple times, and I was pretty surprised. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, I'll go right into it. But yeah, I've been sober for 12 years, and like one of the few things like I just can't do winters anymore.
No,
Like I cannot spend 4 months when the sun is going down at 5 p.m. and it's freezing cold and everybody's just going outside to try and get inside. And I realized my family who still lives in New York, I feel like they live their life 8 months out of the year. And I feel like I have 12 down here. Like where I'm looking out my window, it's 70 degrees. It's gorgeous. I'll go for a walk after where they're like, they plan their day just trying to get inside.
dude, I grew up in Chicago, 34 years, 10 in Philly. Now I'm in San Francisco. I swear to you, I will never, if I can afford it, I never thought in a million years, my relatives, my aunt and uncle live in the Palisades. When I go out there, I'm like, get me out of here. I freaking hated California. And now I'm like, I will never leave. It is literally what you said. I was walking down the stairs in Chicago, lived next to Wrigley Field, was producing a morning show. That went and hit my face. And I called my dad and I said, I am out of here. I don't get it. Why people would ever want to live where it's freezing cold. I finally got smart after took me 40 years, but
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
My best friend's parents retired finally, both of them, and they moved up to Maine. I was like, well, I can't wrap my head. There's nothing that could get me. Like, I'd rather live somewhere where the weather was beautiful and like had nothing else.
No,
Just
nothing.
it's like
You wake
it's
up.
hard. It's like I was always a guy when I was younger who was like I wanted to stay inside and I was like a hermit, like I never what. So when it's like my brother hit me up, he's like, yo, it's 8 degrees outside. I'm like, it's fucking 8 degrees. Like, what are you, how do you like, I can't comprehend what my friends and family are doing. I'm like, yo, and then one of my brothers finally moved down here a year ago and he's 15 years younger than me. And he's like, he's like, what was I doing? I'm like,
That's
I
what I
don't
say.
know.
Dude, my dad spent 75 years in Chicago. He moved to Cape Cod. And then him and his wife love it out there. It's a little warmer than Chicago, but not much. I'm like, to your point, like if you're gonna move, go somewhere where it's warm.
You know what I think the thing is too? It was winters never bothered me until I spent an entire winter in Vegas and my body was not in cold weather for 24 months. And then when it went back, it was just like I can't.
No, you're cooked. No
Yeah,
way.
I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
out.
It was the last 2 days have been the two coldest days here since I've been here, and it's literally like 45 and 50 degrees. But
Right.
it's been cold, and to your point, like my blood now, it's legit. Like it's thinned out so much. If I go back to Chicago or Philly, there's just no way I would be able to deal with it.
Yeah. You ever listen to like RJ Bell and Steve Fezzik?
Yes.
I love listening to those guys, man. They're so good and just like they've made me a better like sports watcher, gambler, everything. But they were basically saying like the temperature doesn't actually matter. It's if it's 40 degrees lower than where you live, like that's what studies have shown that even if you're in Austin and you're used to 90 degrees and you go somewhere and it's 50, it feels way colder than if you're
No
from
doubt.
somewhere where it's 40 and you go somewhere where it's 20.
It is so true. It is so
Yeah.
true. All right, let's dig into the pod. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there. So like my company, Draymond Green just signed with us, and we're putting his out podcast out twice a week. And I always think like everybody wanted to do it years ago, and now it's like all those people that thought they could do it are kind of gone, and so it's shrunk down a little bit. But I listen and watch you guys for two reasons, but then I want you to tell me, like, what do you try to do on the show that is different to get people to, to come in because there's so much competition. I watch it because I watched every episode of The Sopranos, and I want to know about you guys and your lives. I do find that fascinating. And the fact that you guys talk about your lives so much, especially you, I don't want to hear from guests and whatever, unless you get some of the cast members. But I want to hear from you guys. So I think you've done a really good job with that. I really do.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I mean, I think, luckily because we have that relationship that people care about, me and Jamie, because of Sopranos, because I also think people are very interested in people who are genuine friends for 30 years. Like, I think people wanted, like, I remember somebody telling me, like, the reason they watched Sex in the City was because, like, those girls were best friends. Like, it wasn't about, like, there was nothing else to the show. Like, they didn't care about fashion or whatever else was in it. It was just like, and again, like, the show, like Friends, like, what did people love? Yeah, it was good writing, but it was like, people love to watch people who are like, as I'm getting older, like I'm 40 years old now, and I hear a lot of people who are like, oh, this is my best friend. And then I'm like, oh, how long have you known them? And they're like, a year and a half. And I'm like, what? Like, my best friend, who I just was the best man at his wedding, we've been best friends for over 35 years.
Totally.
And I'm fucking 40. Like,
totally.
And like, with me and Jamie,
yeah, it makes no sense. It's like I just went to my 35th high school reunion. Dude, all my friends, most of my friends are from either kindergarten and first grade, or my schools merged when we were in fifth grade. And so my best friend was fifth grade. And I'm like, when people say like, well, I known him for like a couple of years, I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm 53. I've known this kid since I was in freaking 10 years old. Like, there's nothing more like incredible to have those relationships,
And also when what was I just gonna say? I just blanked out. A year and a half into like knowing somebody, I'm like, I don't even know this person. Totally. Like, where other people are like, that's my best friend. I'm like, I feel like I need to know somebody for 10 years to be like, all right, I think I'm letting this person in.
So with you and her, obviously the relationship happened, during the show, and did it just continue to grow? Is it brother and sister? Is it like, I mean, do you just like depend on her for like as the person to go to for all your stuff? And if that's the case, it's really cool how it's evolved.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely brother and sister. There were like, it's so weird how, we had nights we always talk about where like we were staying like hanging out all night in hotel rooms in LA until 5 a.m, this, or drunk. And there was never a moment where we were like, like some weird romantic, like we were just, and something that I always say is, I have two sisters, and Jamie would technically be my third because she feels like a sister, but I have two sisters, and like 30 people in the whole world reference them as my sister, where millions of people for decades have been like, your sister, how's your sister, your sister?
Unbelievable.
And it just becomes a thing where I'm like, my brain is like, no, that's your sister. Like, that is family. And like, I've known her family for 30 years. I'm, there, it's just, and also, I grew up in New York City. My family was, I don't know how you want to put it, I wasn't around a lot of people who are like Jamie, which is like, she always does the right thing, even when no one's looking. Like, I grew up in New York City. My family was like, fuck these people. Who cares?
Totally.
Like, I don't care what which I love that I have that. And like, that's something me and Jamie talk about all the time, is like, she's like, I want to be more like you, where I don't care what people think, and I'll say anything, I'll do it. Where with her, I'm like, no, I want to be more like you, where you are so kind and you're always doing the right thing. And it for me, once I got sober, it's like, I had to, I'm like, what I have to think, like, what is the right thing to do here? Where I think Jamie's her intuition is to just always, like, the first thought in her head is always the nicest thing, the kindest thing. Like, we're never hanging out and she's like, fuck that person, Totally. Like, there's times where I'm like, fuck that person. She's like, why'd you say that? Like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. It just felt, it felt good in the moment.
Dude, it's my wife and I. Literally, she literally says to me all the time, I wish I could just have one trait of yours, and it's you don't give a flying F about what anybody thinks of you. I never have. I literally don't care. And I'm trying to teach that to my kids. And it's not working. They're always like, Dad, you don't get it. Like, it just doesn't work like that. I'm like, no, like, you gotta like try to make it like that. I just don't care. The only person I care about is like myself. And she's like, no, that's very different the way people think. Um, how much did she help you in the sobriety part of it? And did she push you hard on it? Like, I mean, was she instrumental in getting you to get sober?
I don't think like, not like I was living two lives, but it was very much like two lives for me. Like my whatever non-sober days or whatever, where it was like I was never a problem at 9 p.m. And that's when Jamie hung out. Like Jamie wasn't a 6 a.m. we're putting garbage bags over the windows and doing drugs for 2 days type of person.
Right,
And I would
right.
never invite her to a situation like that. So she never saw like, maybe a handful of times at some parties where I just was out of control of this, but it was never anything like too bad. It was, my four friends who I knew who could stay up for 3 days with me, or were down to go to Vegas for an unknown amount of time and just get on a plane and do that kind of stuff. So she never pushed me too hard. She was always just extremely supportive and was always like, yeah, I'm there for you, kind of whatever you need. And I think she, like a lot of people, I think a lot of people who don't have that, like Jamie has 2 sips of champagne and she needs someone to carry her home,
Totally.
so she never understood, like, what do you mean you drink for 3 days? I'm like, yeah, you just, you drink. So what do you get? And like, I know a lot of people talk about addiction as like a disease and this, and I was never like, I never thought that way. I was just like, oh, I like to get fucked up and this is what I do. And then when I was getting sober to get off of the Xanax, I needed to see somebody because I was like, I don't think I could do this on my own. Where like alcohol, I was like, I could do this, and painkillers, I was like, I could do this because I just really wanted out. And like the Xanax just had me like in a chokehold, or I was like, I was terrified to stop. And
God, it's frightening, man. It just takes over your whole body and mind.
completely. And that guy was telling me, he's like, it's not a disease that you're addicted to this stuff. He's like, your disease is after you have 10, you can't not have 11 and 12 and 13 and 4 and 15. And like, he's like, like, you don't understand because you have it, but other people don't have that. Like,
Right.
other people have 4 drinks and they go, I think I'm done. I've never with other things, yes, but with alcohol, I've never been someone who's like, I think I'm done tonight. Like, I think I've hit, it's just more.
I've been drinking since I was 12 years old. Best friend, like I talked to you about, and a group of 6, 7 guys trips the whole bit. And I went out last night for a department head meeting, and somebody looked at me and said, are you drinking? And I said, my problem is if I have one, it will be 10. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't get it. Like, I mean, and I'm not, I don't drink that much at all anymore. But when I do, it's just like I get right back into the 25-year-old mode of just boom, boom, boom. And it's just like, it's scary. I mean, it really is. Because like you said, it can really, knock you out. I do want to say, just on a lighter note, I want to go quick on this because I've got my top 3 that I have, most guys have. I call it the women that I would consider leaving my wife for. Jamie's in that top 3.
Oh, wow.
Jenny McCarthy, Brittany Daniel from Joe Dirt,
Oh, okay.
the blonde,
Right.
and Jamie. So, and
Wow.
by the
See,
way,
you're like, oh, on a lighter note, this is how I know she's really my sister. I was so comfortable before, now I'm uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm like, what? Oh,
by the way, I'm hooked on $100,000 pyramid, and I just go like this, dude. I didn't realize you were on there with her at that one of them.
Yeah,
she was insane.
she's
in the final round. Like,
she's never lost a game show.
One clue on everything, and she had the thing. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
She's nuts. Yeah, for her birthday this year, there's a place out here in Austin called Game On, and you basically go with 20 friends and 10 and 10, and you just do a full game night. They have like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy,
Cool.
and we did it. And she's she's nasty. She's done, I think, like, I don't know how many, whatever, 10 like celebrity game show things. She's never lost.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you just real quick about. We'll get into the Sopranos. You started when you were 12. I'm really fascinated by the childhood actors, and I grew up. Different Strokes was my favorite show. Gary Coleman, Dana Plato, I think, both no longer with us, and Dana obviously had some issues. And then you look at Macaulay Culkin, and everyone's like, "Wow, it'd be so cool to be that." And I look at it like, you know what, like. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a darker side for some reason to the childhood actors. Take me like into you're 12 years old, and like what's going through your mind? Like, you're on this show, and like how can you even compartmentalize things at 12?
Honestly, like I think I'm very lucky in that I had those first 12 years and lived a life of, there were a bunch of us living in a not even real 1-bedroom apartment in New York City. And then when I moved out, my grandmother passed away. We had to move out. I moved into a studio with my mom and her friends. There's like 3 of us it was, yeah, I think like living in New York City and the streets of New York City being outside of your front door, like it keeps you humble, where I think in California, it's a lot darker and it's a lot weirder and it's a lot more like these kind of backroom things and dark figures and this, like, you hear all these stories of all these things that have happened to these kids, and this, like, I never saw any of that. Like,
Wow.
I never saw anybody to try and touch my knee or say, hey, I could do this for you, that, because I think they get the vibe of desperation from some people and they prey on that. And I was never desperate to be more famous or get a role or do this. Like, I would go audition for something and I didn't get it. My family would go, fuck those people. Like they wouldn't go like, you have to make them, like, we talk about this with Jamie's, Jamie's parents are different, where they were like, you got to make them like you. And you got, because Jamie was doing Broadway. So they'd be like, you got to do the dance perfect and you got to do this. And my family would be like, no, you go in there and you are who you are. And I think that's the reason why, I think I got Sopranos too, is like David Chase was like, this, I tell this kid to do a thing a different way and he doesn't even do it. Like, and if you saw like that, I forget what his documentary was called, The Wise Guy. And if you listen to him describe the people who got the jobs, like James got the job, and in his audition, he basically was like, I'm terrible. I'm gonna leave. Like, this is awful. Tony Sirico said that he was terrible. I came in and he was trying to tell me to do stuff, and like I just would do it the same way. And I think he liked that. Like, I don't think he liked the kind of Hollywood, like, yes, sir, I'm gonna do this song and dance for you and do this. He liked people who like couldn't get out of their own way, basically, and just kind of were who they were. And like, I don't know how many kids auditioned for AJ, if it was 1,000 or whatever. Like, when you're young, you remember just roomfuls of kids, and all these kids are like Italian with the slick back hair and like perfect for the role and this, and I'm fat Irish covered in freckles coming in, and I'm like, oh, like, and he's like, yeah, that's the guy. Like,
it's unbelievable.
So it was just luck. But yeah, I think like going back to that thing, like I think the streets of New York City keep you humble, where like, when I was walking down the street or like, taking the fucking train to auditions or this, nobody, you were still just a guy who was in people's way. Like, 99% of the time, it's like, get out of the, move, you're hustling, you're bustling. It's not like LA where it's like, I'm in the convertible with the top down and I pull up to get my smoothie and they're like, oh my God, look who it is. Like,
well, it's funny because it sounds like you're saying, well, I say to my kids, the bigger deal you make out of something, the bigger deal it'll be. And you were brought up with like, yeah, if you get it, you get it, whatever. And it wasn't like, so you didn't maybe feel pressure to a certain extent. Whereas here, it's like, oh my God, like the dog and you have to do everything right, and the kids are probably freaking out, before. And so it's like, you know what? Don't make a big deal out of it. Just go in. If you get it, you get it.
Yeah, and like my boys, like my friends, we were hanging out in the park, like smoking blunts, drinking 40s, this. And I remember like, I don't know how old I was, like 14, 15, but we like, it was literally like, Wednesday night I'd be in the park drinking with my friends. Friday I'd be on a first class plane to California with guys from Sopranos. We'd go to an award show, win an award. I'd come back and, Monday I'd be back in the park drinking and smoking while my friends like never left the bench. And I'd be like, this is crazy. And I remember one year we won like the SAG award. And if you're a kid growing up in California and all these kids are like, oh my God, you won the SAG award, like that's this, that. My friends came over to my apartment, like I forget, my mom was away for a weekend or whatever, and we're all like smoking weed and on my couch and watching TV. And my friend looks up and he goes, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a SAG award." And he's like, "Why did you win that?" I was like, "Oh, it's like a thing." And he was like, and he looked at one of my other boys. He goes, "Yo, did you know Rob won the Saggy Nut Award?" And then all of my friends forever, they were like, "Yo, oh yeah, the Saggy Nut Award." I'm like, "Yo, if my boys come over, I gotta hide this shit." Like
But
it
but,
wasn't.
but don't you love that part of it?
Of course, like that's why it was never like, oh my God, you won the SAG award. What was that? My friends never were even like, what was that like? Like they were just like, how can I dunk on you?
So
Like,
did they watch the show, right? I mean, and how did that work? Like I'm trying to think of, if I'm on a show like that, I go back with my friends. They're probably like, you ain't that cool, dude, whatever. But at the same time, they're probably asking some questions like, is this guy cool? Did they think it was cool or not?
so some of my friends did. 90%, like again, I grew up poor. I went to public school, everything. Like, no, first of all, none of these kids had HBO. HBO was, I don't know what it is, $10 a month. Like nobody
Yeah,
was
that's the
paying for
point.
that. But then also, like, you got to remember, I was 12. 12-year-olds weren't watching. Like back then, right before, like Sopranos obviously changed things, but like when I was 12 and 13, nobody was talking about TV on HBO, even adults.
Nope.
So like people my age never gave a shit. And that's another thing I talk about where it's like, I was grateful to be in New York and not LA. Like I was grateful. Hold on. Sorry. Something's beeping on my phone. I was grateful to be on a show that was on HBO and not Nickelodeon. Like I didn't go around other kids my age. Like unless somebody told kids my age, hey, this is who this guy is. No one knew. Where
That's
if I
interesting.
was, yeah, so if I was on Nickelodeon, kids would be like, oh my God, look who it is. So I would be around all these kids in the park. Nobody would know who I was. And even if they told them, it wasn't really like they didn't care so much as like when I would go and do some kind of like appearance at a club in Long Island, like 30-year-olds would lose their mind,
Right.
and I'm like, I'm 15. Like it was
That's pretty.
bizarre.
That's pretty bizarre. And I will tell you, I'm just being honest. Like, 2 weeks from now, we'll be at Chase Center doing our broadcast, and Steph will walk by, and I mean, I'll shake his hand or whatever. And I'm like, well, whatever. Met Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. When you said you do it, like, I kind of got like, oh my God, I got to prepare. Like, I freaked out a little bit. And I think it's because like when you love something, like I love the show, I'm just like, this is gonna be so cool. I'm freaking talking to this guy that I watched, like, and I watch on my phone in the shorts every freaking. My wife's like, "What is wrong with you? You literally peel through those like all day, all night." I'm like, I love it, but there is something to that. Like we like think it's cool when, again, that's why I love the pod, is that I get to hear about. I do care what happens in your guys' lives, because I felt like I saw you grow up too, right? I mean, and I loved the show and I loved the character, and so like I feel like I'm like linked to you. That's what happens, right? That's why
Yeah.
we fall in love with shows.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, how long have you been working for the game?
so I've been here 8 years. I was in Philly for 10 years before that. That was unbelievable, running a sports station. I mean, those people are absolutely freaking out of their minds. But it
Yeah.
was awesome. I mean, it was like right now they're literally crushing Jalen Hurts like nonstop. Want him gone. Like when this happens, it's not, well, he's not playing well. It's get him off the team. Like dude. I got to tell you this. I got there. I went to an Eagles game the first weekend we got there. Me and my wife. She's in the porta potty in the parking lot, having that time of the month. She's in there for a little while. Line starts going long. They start getting pissed. I'm like, oh my God, their name is Joey. I'm like, Joey, get out of the freaking porta potty. They start banging on it. Then they start trying to freaking tip it over.
Oh,
And I'm like, dude, I'm like, guys, it's my freaking wife in there. There's like 10 of them. What am I going to do?
yeah.
She's freaking in tears. And she has that in her mind about Philly for the rest of the freaking time. I mean, like, but
Yeah.
that's really, I mean, so, but that's how, when we met, when I told her I was going to talk to you, she's like, I used to come over to your house. We used to watch that show. And it was like, we couldn't wait to freaking sit down. You brought up Tony. I saw something just about how he protected you. Maybe it was a one-off. Maybe it was he was my favorite guy on the show. I just loved him. And I was like, I thought that was so cool. Did that really happen throughout? Would you felt like he was kind of protecting you whenever anything like came up?
Yeah, and to be clear, you're talking about Tony Sirico or Jamie?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because it's always, people
No,
always
right.
like
Tony,
Tony.
I
I'm like, I
didn't
don't
think
know.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. And the same thing with when I was talking about how like Jamie's like my sister, is like all those guys, James, Tony Sirico, they'd be like, hey, watch out for your sister. Make sure your sister, and I always would, everybody would watch out for her. But like everybody watched out for everybody on that show. Like it was, the people who were on the show, like, I was 12 years old. I got on something that people consider the greatest show of all time. So to me, it's like, it's even beyond that. Like, it's like, this was the greatest thing ever. But the really cool thing is, we have like PAs on the show, like production assistants and all these people, the people who work on the camera, the people who work behind the scenes, whatever. Whenever we see them anywhere, if we're, I'm back in New York and you grab dinner or you go to a reunion and they happen to be there, they go, this was the best show to ever work on. So and that's the important, you're like, okay, it's not just me, like, and it's not just the fans, it's the people who hustle in this industry every single day and are always looking for another job in this. And they go, we've worked on, XYZ, these other giant shows and this, and they're cool, they're fun, but this, like, people in like California show business, they argue about, the thing from back in the day was like that you would hear people argue about is like, who has the biggest trailer? And it's not even that in LA. They would fight about your trailer was parked closer to the set than mine. So you're not more important than me. And when I say you never heard a second of that on Sopranos, I remember, like, I used to not like to, I've probably been cursing, but I don't know what you want to say here, but like, I used to have a problem with taking a shit anywhere. And James would go, you go in my trailer and take a shit. Like, that's how we were. And he wouldn't even think twice. Like, we were always together. As soon they would say like, all right, cut, you got 10 minutes. And like other things I've worked on, which is very few because I worked on things after. And I was like, oh, I don't like acting. I liked Sopranos. Like, I had a passion for those people, that project. And they say cut, and you see everybody like cockroaches just scatter. They go their separate ways. And this, when they would say cut to us, we would be like, hey, what do you want to do for 10 minutes? Like, let's go over here. Let's talk. And you're hanging with your friends.
All right. So you just said, from what you know, of the one or two things, do you think that's not like that in, I mean, you don't know because you're not, but from what you hear from other shows or whatever, that's very uncommon, isn't it?
9 out of 10 times it's not that way. And the bigger people get and the show gets, it usually even gets less likely because you have these people who become, big time this, but also you get people who just, and again, construction workers listening, I'm not trying to be like, it's such a hard job, but like my job was easy. When you got somebody like James, who is going to work 16 hours a day, and as soon as he's done, he has to go and learn another 8-9 pages of words that he has to memorize to have. I think they give you 8 hours to go home, sleep before you have to be back on set. So he spends 4 of those just learning these lines and this, and he was always on point. Like there were times other actors you had to like, there were people who would write stuff down and you'd lift up your drink and their line would be under there and all this stuff. It's crazy. He was incredible. And like the amount of work and stress that is on somebody for 9 months nonstop. And he's the guy, like, you know, like if you're doing construction and you don't show up one day, the job keeps going. Like,
Yep.
if Jim doesn't show up, that's it.
It's done.
Yeah. Everyone's just sitting around going like, where's our leader? Like, where's our guy, you know? And you can't just switch in the last minute without him. So it's like, and he was just like, you know, I know people now, it's like these things have come out about him and he was this, he's that. He was the best, like just such a great guy. And people want to, like, you know, put a magnifying glass on, like, maybe he had 2 bad days a year. It's like, get the fuck, like, you know, it's like, who doesn't?
I know it's funny, Rob. I learned something a long time ago. I love this business more than anything in the world. And our job is to, you know, critique what they're doing on the field. Now it's turned a lot of off the field stuff. And Brian Westbrook, Eagles running back, I worked with in Philly, and I really learned a lot from him in regards to, like, first of all, like, have I ever done anything bad in my life? Dude, if you went through my life, like, it wouldn't be real pretty, right? I mean, you know, not that crazy, but there's drugs, there's alcohol, young age, doing some stupid stuff. Like, everyone's going to have that. And one thing gets out and everybody starts like, dude, come on, man. Like, it's just so ridiculous that we're just like, I mean, everyone has issues. Just let it go a little bit, you know?
And I understand people being interested in it. Like, if you told me, you know, oh, this happened on this, like, I love Goodfellas and Casino and that kind of stuff. And you're like, this story happened where these guys did that. I'm interested, but I don't then go like, you know, I don't know. People, it's a weird time where, like, you know, I think more than ever, people are drawn to like these headlines, and you just read the headline and what that, and then when you really get to the root of it, you're like, these people. So that's, you know, I got arrested when I was like 16. And I learned that at 16, like there were things in the newspaper printed that I was found with a crack pipe, and that I was doing all this crazy stuff. There were interviews. So I was 16 years old. I don't think I had ever been in a bar once, maybe. Like I was so young, and like I looked so young in this. There were interviews of bar owners who were obviously just doing it to get their stuff on the thing, in front of their bar with the news interview and going, yeah, he would come in here trying to get drinks. And then I was like, never in my life. They were interviewing people in front of my building where I grew up, and it would say Robert Iler's friend. And I'd go, I don't know who this, like,
I don't even know who it is.
Every step of the way. And then there was some reporter who, like, my mom cursed out because he was being like a real asshole down at the courthouse or whatever. And then they just, I mean, tried to bury us. They're writing all these horrible, and you're like, what are these people even like? You're just like, wow.
Because we freaking love, not we, you and I, people prey on the people that are high up because they're so miserable in their life that they can't just be like, you know, it's pretty cool that you're doing what you're doing. I'm miserable, and so I want you to be miserable too. And people love negativity. That's what it is. I think social media is, I mean, the worst thing that's ever happened in our lives by far. I use it with the station. It's great. I love the people on Twitter, and we have a huge following, the whole bit. I think it's the biggest garbage crap of all time. And we can go on and on about that. I've taken way too much of your time. I want to ask you 2 quick more things about the show. I got 2 scenes.
Yeah. Oh, you know, wait, you know what else I just remembered, like, just to say how crazy that last thing was. So when I got arrested, I didn't have ID on me because I was 16, and I didn't have ID. I think I had like a passport that I had to travel one time to like Canada for something for Sopranos. That was at home, so that was all I had. So when I got arrested, they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I gave them a fake name because I didn't want things to come out and this. And then when they brought me back to the station, I think, or it might have been the 2 guys originally, somebody recognized me, and then the whole thing became like, oh, this is a big deal, and what are we going to do in this? And the whole time I was just trying to keep it like, oh no, my name is this, like, I'm not that guy, whatever. And in the paper, it goes, he was in the jail cell screaming, do you know who I am? And I'm like, and now I'm like, every time I've ever read that about somebody, you don't think, my gut just goes, what an asshole.
Right,
like,
totally,
you know, like,
totally.
you believe this guy? And now I'm like, no, I was telling them that my name was something totally different. So and then I had to call my grandpa to come bring my passport, and then it just
Dude, it's
everything.
so funny when you hear the person that do you know who I am? First thought is what an asshole, right?
Right, yeah. And then I was like, oh
that's
my God, I fell for this. And I mean, this makes me sound like a real idiot. But after that, it's like, and I know it's different between like news and gossip and this, but I'm like, how can I ever read these papers? Like, if you're a person who sees that things are being printed that are not true, it's even more different than like you're involved in this thing and you're realizing everything that's coming out is not true. And these people have zero repercussions
no, none.
for all this stuff that's happening. And like your lawyers are like, well, I mean, you could go after them, but it's going to be nothing. So it's like they could just do whatever the fuck they want.
It's not. It sucks to say it's not worth it, but you'll sit there and you'll spend all this money but defamation of character. That I don't know how the hell you dealt with it because I'd have lost my freaking mind. Like
well, I was very lucky to have a family who instilled in me like we don't give a fuck what people like. I never gave a fuck. Like I more so was looking at it as like, look how crazy this is. Like
yeah.
I never was like, man, this hurts me or like like it did hurt me that like I was on the cover of the paper in handcuffs and like my little brothers had to deal with whatever, or like my family had to deal with the consequences of that. But like for me, like I don't know. I never that people writing fake shit about me in the newspaper to me wasn't real life. It actually felt like, I've had times in my life where I lost friends who I've been friends with for a long time over something. And I almost immediately look at it and go, I'm happy I learned this now instead of this guy's in my wedding party and I make him the godfather of my son, and then I find out he's actually this guy, So it's like it was almost like that whole thing of like fame and everything during that time changed for me where I was like, this is all nonsense. Like
it's so great that you could look at it like that. All right, two scenes. One, you try to kill Uncle June. You come out, I think you get arrested or whatever. Tony brings you out. I'm like weird about shit. I overthink it. I felt like that scene, and maybe I'm totally wrong, was totally off the cuff. And when he's grabbing you and you're pissed off at him because he's hypocrite, it was something like you're hypocritical. Did that back and forth with you guys when he grabbed you and you were both crying and he said stop crying? How does something like that work? It's put in the script, but is there some kind of off the cuff where it just kind of blows up like that a little bit or not?
So I don't know if you saw the episode me and Jamie did where we had David Chase on the podcast.
I did, but I don't remember. Bits and pieces.
So I said to him, I think I did good in one scene in The Sopranos during all 7 seasons. I go, can you guess which one it was? And he took a break. He looked down and he was like, outside the police station. I was like, yep. Like, yeah, that. And it was, yeah, like that was one of the few times where I understood how people could get like addicted to acting. Like that was the thing where I was like, wow, it was. So the funny thing was James, we had never rehearsed outside of being on set before. And he hit me up and he's like, hey, this is a big scene. Why don't we get together and rehearse it? Okay. Yeah. And we never did. Like, we were like, yeah, we'll do it. And we just didn't. And then he's like, here's the thing, the shoot is in Jersey. I'll pick you up or my driver will pick you up and me and you could rehearse on the whole way out to Jersey. So I'm like, all right. He picks me up and, we're driving through the tunnel or whatever. We're stuck in traffic. All of a sudden I open my eyes and we're on set and I'm like, I fucking fell asleep for this. And Jim's like, the driver, somebody turns around and he's like, oh, my bad, I fell asleep. I'm like, I fucking fell asleep. Like we were never gonna, do it. And then I remember, so we did, obviously the script is all written. The writers there were brilliant. Like, and that's the thing. It's like when writers are that good, scenes feel like that. This wasn't written. It's like, no, this was written. But we did the first take and it was very different from how it was written because we did just kind of go this weird way. And we're like, so at the end of the scene, he like he's disgusted with me and I'm like throwing up. He's like, get in the car. In the first take we did at the end, we were hugging and we're like holding each other and we're crying. Like I'm crying and like all this crazy stuff. And the director came over after, and he was like, that was great, but that's not what this is. We're like, listen, I don't know. It just kind of happened and was this whole
Wow.
thing. But yeah, that was like, really, it was the scene where I was like, oh, and it was from spending time around these actors for 8 years, 10 years, Edie, James, who were so good. And just, I had my moment. It felt like I was like, okay, that was good, and
No, it was phenomenal. Talk to me about the pool trying to commit suicide. How does that even work? Like, do you really have a brick and the rope? Are you really underwater? Like, I mean, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't like that was if that really happened, it's got to be kind of scary. But how does it work?
all of it was real and legit, and nothing like the brick wasn't actually a cinder block. It was like a heavy brick, but I don't think it was an actual cinder block or whatever. But everything else is 100% legit. They had the pool cover on there. There was like a Navy SEAL guy under there with the scuba gear on to make sure like everything was okay once I went in. And like, yeah, people are like, man, you look so miserable in that scene. I was like, yeah, well, it was December in Jersey, and I had to tie a bag around my head, and I have asthma, and then I had to jump into a pool. And then the worst part about stuff like that is, like, as soon like, you're laying on the ground that's freezing with Jim, who just pulled you out, and you're both crying and this, and then they go, cut, all right, reset, get dry. And they would put me into a room that had like these, they had the things that you had, the heaters that are on the side of like NFL games, like these like jet engine things.
Yep.
They dry you completely. They do your hair, and the whole time that you're freezing cold, you're being dried, and you're just thinking like, I got to go do that again.
It's almost worse to get dried in the heat. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, it sucked. And then as soon as you were dry and ready, and they would do your hair and everything, and they would go, okay, go out. You sit on the edge of the diving board, and I had the thing in my thing, and you just. Yeah, it was bizarre. And I remember the director, I think it was Timmy Van Patten, was playing like this like dreary music, and it was the perfect day. Like, it was this cloud. It just happened to be like this cloudy, gross day, and yeah, it sucked. Like, it really sucked, and it was I remember.
But it's why the scene was so good though too.
100%. Yeah, it was just it was and it was funny because like. There were some people who worked on that set, like production assistants or whoever, who had been there for 5-10 years. They saw me go from 12 years old to 22, and they were getting like choked up watching me on the diving board, looking like I was going to commit suicide. They're like, you're a baby. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, it was weird.
So one with this, you'll appreciate this. I hope. Like, there's just certain things like I'll have on my phone. Random Tony, you got expelled or something, and you're in the house, and he's going, I give you cars, I give you this, I guess. And you look at him with this smug ass look, and what did you say?
Sucks to be you.
Sucks to be you. And he freaking smacks you in the face. But the way you said it was just so freaking great, and it just pissed him off so bad. Just smack. And just, it's little things like it. I think the show beauty was, I do think that you could tell the chemistry and the acting was incredible, but it was the one-liners, and it's the little scenes that I just have in my mind that are just, it's Christopher and Tony out in the woods freezing, eating ketchup packets, you know?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's unbelievable. All right, I swear one more thing.
No, go for it. I'm here. It's all good.
A lot of people say they don't never watch their movies or whatever. Did you watch during it? And I mean, do you go back and just watch certain episodes, or are you like, I'm kind of done with that?
Never. I've never seen the show.
Whoa. You never seen the show?
No.
You've never watched an episode of the show?
Well, no. When we would do premieres, they would show you the first 2 episodes. You sit in a theater with everybody, you watch it. And then I think maybe I watched a few episodes of the first season, like with my family or whatever, but then that was it.
Why?
I mean, at that time, it was because I was 13 and 12 and 14. Like, I just didn't really care, and I wanted to be hanging out with my friends, and like that, I wasn't really into it. And then now I'm at a point where I'm 40 years old and my memory of that thing is perfect. And all I can do is go back and make it not perfect. And, I've been watching a movie where I didn't know James Gandolfini was in it and he shows up and I have to turn it off because
Yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
and not, and, I love seeing him and I love, I've gotten to spend some time with his son, Michael. And like, I love being around him and feeling that feeling. But if I'm watching something with James in it, I'm not watching a movie anymore. I'm just sitting there thinking about James and thinking about it. And just completely, it is sad, but it also just takes me out of, I have no idea what the words are anymore. I'm not watching a story anymore. I'm just watching my friend who's not here anymore. And it just makes me sad. And I
It
can't
is,
imagine watching 80 hours of that.
it is really unbelievable when you think about it, how there's James Gandolfini's of different shows. There, I, I don't know shit about it. I'll guarantee you, there's no one that touched, just off of what you said way back in this, touched the people, and it's because I'm sure he was so good to all of you guys, and never thought. I read something about, it wasn't a bonus or something he was going to give. He gave everyone like the same amount. He was just like, I'm not going to benefit more than all of you guys. And the way he treated you guys as just people and cared about you is really powerful. And you can tell from that. I don't think that really happens very much in other shows and other movies. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it does.
Yeah, no, I mean I forget if people revealed the amount, so I won't, but he took everybody in this trailer, like, one at a time or whoever was showing up that day, and he's like, hey, here's an envelope with a check in it. That was more money than I had ever seen in my entire life. And he's like, I just want to help you guys out. But another thing that he did was he was holding out from HBO one year and the press was getting on him about he wouldn't sign. And, oh, he's getting too big for his whatever. And he's this. But really what he was doing is he was like, I'm not going to sign my contract until everyone else is signed because I don't want it to seem like, the headlines are he gets whatever, $1 million an
Yep.
episode. And then other actors are like, oh, no wonder I'm not getting paid, So he was like, no. As soon as everyone else is done, I'll come in. And then the greatest story to me ever was, I think it was after he passed away. Again, a lot of this stuff is a blur, but my manager told me, he was like, hey, James used to call me and check up on you and tell me not to tell you. So James would call my manager and he would say, what is he paying for rent? Is he doing like checking up on me just to be like, he's not being stupid with his money or with the people he's around or and he would hang up with my manager every time and go, don't you tell him we spoke.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, which is the opposite of what people want in Hollywood. They want to go, I would call him, his manager, and make sure he was okay. And he was like, no, I'm not. He was a good guy, really good guy.
That story sums the whole thing up. That's about as good as it gets. You're totally right. Everyone else would be like, yeah, I always checked up on him. It's like, no, he actually didn't want you to know that. That's how amazing he was. He just
and then you had guys like Tony Sirico who he probably wouldn't even know that he protected us and checked up on us this because that was his instinct. Like he didn't know any other way. I forget how old I was, but when I made like my communion, he came to the communion. He gave me an envelope with like $500 in it. He gives me a kiss on the cheek. He's like, listen, if anybody ever bothers you, you call Uncle Tony. And he was the real deal.
I love that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I just, my favorite character, but obviously not more than you. But
It might have been my confirmation or my communion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
People love to nitpick through shit I say sometimes and be like, that can't be real. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like I told a story so bad the other day. It was terrible. And people are like, he's lying. This never happened. I'm like, dude, if you watch my podcast, I very rarely talk about like Hollywood type shit or like, these kind of big events or whatever. I'm more in like the, talking about how I don't like to use public bathrooms kind of space or what I feel comfortable in. But it's like, yeah, I don't, it is what it is.
That's the beauty of the pod. Like, it's just like, you get to know, and the fact that you're saying, and I'll hang up and the first thing I'll think about is, that's pretty cool. He doesn't give a fuck and neither do I. Like, and there's someone like me. Like, It's awesome. You can't, worry about all the crap that's out there. You're wasting your time, man. You're wasting your
Yeah.
time.
I told a story where I was like, oh, I was friends with Richard Jefferson, and he invited me to a Nets game, and we sat courtside. And when he played against Michael Jordan, and because he was playing, I told a story horrible. I said that he was playing for the Hornets because he owned the Hornets, but he was playing for the Wizards.
Yep.
And in that, like, they always would bring you to the back, like in this private area during halftime, so people didn't bother you, or you could have food or whatever. And I saw Jay-Z, and Jay-Z was talking, and he's like, I got to be home by 8 o'clock, because Sopranos is on or whatever. And like, I tapped him on the shoulder, and he's like, oh, what's up, man? Like,
No way.
And people went through the thing and were like, Michael Jordan never played in the Nets on a Sunday into this. And I was like, listen, I went to 20 Nets games. Like, I don't, yeah, the Jay-Z thing maybe wasn't the same day as the RJ thing. Like,
right.
Dude, you couldn't pay people to go to Nets games when they were giving us tickets. Like, we were the biggest show in Jersey. So they would be like, hey, they were awesome. They were like, anytime you want to come, you come. So I went to 20 of them, and I pushed 2 into 1, and people just wanted to find so bad. He's lying. This never happened. I'm like, okay.
What is it? I think it just makes them feel so good about themselves that they are able to say and prove somebody like you is like wrong. It's like, that makes you happy. Like, you'll never be able to figure it out. Don't try.
But that one, I do take some credit for telling a horrible story. Like, what? Because for me, even when I said Jordan was on the Hornets, like all of it, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, that's usually I'm like, these people are assholes, but this one I was like, all right, I could see you tapping into this one. Once I was like, yeah, Jordan was on the Hornets and this, but I was like, yeah, like, no offense, but if I'm gonna be making up stories, it's not gonna be about a Nets game. Like, I'm gonna do something a little, at least let me be in the Yankees dugout or something,
Dude, this has been freaking incredible. Cannot thank you enough. Good luck with the pod. It's awesome. Can't wait to see what you do next with it, and just can't thank you enough for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. It was great to be on. If I'm ever in San Francisco, I'll hit you up.
Tickets for the Warriors, whatever you want, buddy. I got them.